Commander Vexus of the Kalari Empire stood at the observation window with his 3 junior officers. They had traveled across 2 star systems to reach Earth. The Galactic Council had ordered this mission. They needed to see if humans were ready to join the Alliance. The Kalari were tall beings with blue skin and 4 arms. They were known as great warriors. Their empire had won many battles. No species had ever beaten them in open combat. Commander Vexus had fought in over 40 campaigns. He thought he had seen everything. He was wrong. Below the observation window was a large field. It was early morning on Earth. The sun was just coming up. The air looked cold. Vexus could see the breath of the humans below turning to mist. "What are we looking at, Commander?" asked Lieutenant Drex. He was young and eager. "This is what the humans call a training base," Vexus said. "We are here to watch how they prepare their soldiers." "Just training," Drex sounded disappointed. "I was hoping to see actual combat." "Patience," Vexus said. "The Council wants us to understand human military methods. We will observe and report." A loud sound cut through the air. It was sharp and terrible. Vexus flinched. His hand moved toward his weapon. "What was that?" asked Officer Kenna. She was the medical expert on the team. "I believe the humans call it a whistle," Vexus said. "It signals the start of activities." Below them, doors opened in several buildings. Humans began running out. They wore matching clothes that Vexus knew were called uniforms. The uniforms were not thick. They did not look warm. The humans formed lines and stood very still. A human walked in front of them. This one was older. He had marks on his uniform that showed he was a leader. He began to shout at the other humans. "Can we hear what he is saying?" Drex asked. Vexus pressed a button on his translator device. Sound filled the observation room. "Think this is a vacation. You think you can sleep all day. Move your bodies, start running, now, now, now." The humans began to run. Not a gentle run. They sprinted as if something was chasing them. They ran in a large circle around the field. "How long will they run?" Kenna asked. Vexus checked his data pad. "The schedule says this activity lasts for 1 Earth hour." 1 hour of running. Kenna's eyes went wide. At that speed, their hearts will explode. They watched. The humans kept running. Some fell behind. When they did, the older human would run beside them and scream at them. Vexus could not understand why. If a soldier was tired, screaming would not help. But the tired humans did not stop. They ran faster. They caught up with the others. "Fascinating," Vexus said quietly. After 1 hour, the running stopped. Vexus expected the humans to rest. Perhaps they would drink water and sit down. They did not sit down. The leader shouted more orders. The humans dropped to the ground and began pushing their bodies up and down with their arms. "What is that movement?" Drex asked. "It is called a push-up," Vexus said. "They use their own body weight to make their muscles stronger." "Using body weight as resistance, that seems primitive." "Perhaps, but watch how many they do." They counted. Each human did 100 push-ups. Then they rolled over and did something called sit-ups. Then they did something called burpees. Then squats. Then more running. 2 hours passed. The sun was higher now, but the air was still cold. Some humans had removed their outer shirts. They were sweating heavily despite the temperature. "Commander," Kenna said, her voice was worried. "I am detecting signs of physical distress, elevated heart rates, muscle fatigue. Some of them are approaching dangerous levels. Should we intervene?" I do not know. This is their planet, their methods." They kept watching. One human fell. He collapsed onto the ground and did not move. The leader walked over to him. Vexus expected the leader to help him up or call for medical assistance. The leader screamed louder. He called the fallen human terrible names. He questioned the human's courage and worth. And the fallen human got up. He got up and kept going. "How?" Drex whispered. How is that possible? He was finished. His body was done. The body was done, Vexus said slowly, but the mind was not. At noon, the humans stopped for food. Vexus was relieved. Finally, they would rest and recover. The observation team had been standing for hours. They were tired just from watching. Now they will eat a large meal, Kenna said. They will need many calories to replace what they burned. The humans ate quickly. Their meal was not large. It was small portions of protein and vegetables. They had only 15 minutes to eat. That is not enough food, Kenna protested. They burned thousands of calories. They need more. Perhaps they eat more later, Vexus said, but he was not sure. After the meal, the humans went to a different area. This area had many obstacles: walls to climb, water to cross, ropes to swing on, tunnels to crawl through. An obstacle course, Vexus said. This tests agility and problem-solving under stress. The humans began the course, but something was different now. Other humans stood near the obstacles. These humans held long sticks. As the soldiers moved through the course, the humans with sticks would hit them. They are being beaten, Drex shouted. While they train, they are being attacked by their own people. It appears so, Vexus said. His voice was calm, but inside he was shocked. This is torture, Kenna said firmly. This is not training, this is abuse. We must report this to the council. Wait, Vexus said. Let us understand before we judge. One human woman was climbing a rope. She was almost at the top. A man below hit her leg with his stick. She cried out in pain but did not fall. She kept climbing. She reached the top and rang a bell. Then she slid down and moved to the next obstacle. They do not stop, Drex said. No matter what happens, they do not stop. Commander, Kenna said, I have been scanning their bodies continuously. They are in pain, real pain. Their stress hormones are extremely high. Their muscles are tearing at the microscopic level. Some of them have small fractures in their bones. They are destroying themselves. And yet they continue, Vexus said. Why would anyone do this to themselves? Vexus did not have an answer. The afternoon brought more horrors. The humans ran with heavy packs on their backs. They carried each other through mud and water. They were denied sleep. They were denied comfort. They were pushed past every limit. By evening, Vexus and his team had not moved from the window. They could not look away. I thought I was a warrior, Drex said quietly. I thought Kalari training was hard. We trained for 10 days. It is difficult. Some do not finish. How long has this human training been going on? Kenna asked. Vexus checked his data pad. Today is day number 42. They have 50 more days remaining. Silence filled the observation room. 92 days, Drex said. 92 days of this. This is just basic training, Vexus said. For their regular soldiers. I have read that their special forces training is much harder. Kenna made a sound that might have been a laugh or a cry. Harder? How can anything be harder than this? Below them, the humans were still going. The sun had set. It was dark and cold. They ran by the light of small fires. They crawled through mud that had turned to ice at the edges. And they did not stop. Tomorrow, Vexus said, we will ask to speak with one of them. I need to understand this. I need to know why. That night, none of the Kalari could sleep. They kept thinking about what they had seen. They kept asking the same question. What kind of species does this to itself? The next morning, Vexus made a formal request. He wanted to speak with one of the human soldiers. The base commander agreed. They were taken to a small room with chairs and a table. A human entered the room. He was young but looked older than his years. His face showed exhaustion. His arms had bruises. He walked with a slight limp, but his eyes were clear and bright. I am Sergeant First Class Michael Tors, the human said. I have been asked to answer your questions. Thank you for meeting with us, Vexus said. I am Commander Vexus of the Kalari Empire. These are my officers. Tors sat down across from them. He showed no fear, no worry. He sat as if this meeting was perfectly normal. "We observed your training yesterday," Vexus began. "We have questions." "I figured you might," Tors said. There was a slight smile on his face. "What we saw," Vexus paused. He did not know how to say it politely. "What we saw appeared to be torture." Tors laughed. It was a real laugh, not a nervous one. "That was just PT, sir, physical training. We do that every day." "Every day? The running, the exercises, the obstacle course, the beatings." "Well, we don't get hit with sticks every day. That was stress training. They only do that a few times per cycle." "Only a few times," Kenna repeated. Her voice was flat. "Your body," Vexus said. "Your medical condition, you are injured." Tors looked down at his bruised arms. He shrugged. "These are minor. Nothing is broken, nothing that won't heal." "But we detected muscle tears, bone stress, organ fatigue." "Yeah, that happens. The body breaks down before it builds back up. That's how you get stronger." Vexus exchanged looks with his officers. They did not understand. "Let me explain something," Tors said. He leaned forward. "Where I come from, there is a saying, 'What does not kill you makes you stronger.' We believe this." "But it could kill you," Kenna said. "What you do, it could cause death." "Some do die in training," Tors admitted. "Not many. We try to prevent it, but yes, it happens." "And you accept this. Your society accepts that soldiers may die during training." "We accept that soldiers will definitely die in war if they are not properly trained. Better to suffer now than fail later. Better to know your limits here than discover them when lives depend on you." Vexus considered this. "You push yourselves to the breaking point so you know where that point is." "Exactly. And so we can push that point further. The body is amazing. It adapts. It grows. It becomes capable of things that seem impossible." "But the pain." Tors smiled again. "Pain is just information. It tells you something is happening. It does not have to stop you. On Kalari, pain means danger. Pain means stop what you are doing. For us too sometimes. If you break a bone, you stop. If you tear a muscle badly, you stop. But the pain of effort, the pain of being tired, the pain of being uncomfortable, that pain is just your body complaining. You can ignore it." "You can ignore pain," Drex sounded amazed. "With training, yes. You learn that pain will pass. You learn that you can keep going even when every part of you says to quit. That is the real training, not the physical stuff, the mental stuff." Vexus finally understood something. "You are not training bodies, you are training minds." "Now you get it," Tors said. "Anyone can make muscles bigger. Anyone can run faster with practice. But teaching someone to keep fighting when their body says stop, teaching someone to stay calm when everything is chaos, that takes something special. That takes breaking someone down and building them back up as something new." "Something new," Vexus repeated. "A soldier, a warrior, someone who can face any situation and not give up, someone who looks at the impossible and says, 'Let me try anyway.' That is what we are building here." "We Kalari trained for 10 days, Vexus said. "We thought we were strong warriors." "You probably are. Different species, different methods. I'm not saying our way is the only way." "But 92 days. "This is basic training," Tors reminded him. "For regular infantry. Special operations training takes 2 years. After that, constant improvement for your entire career." 2 years, Vexus felt dizzy. "What happens after basic training?" Kenna asked. "You get assigned to a unit. You keep training but also do your job. Then when combat happens, you are ready. And you fight well. This training produces good soldiers." Tors' expression changed. The friendly smile faded. Something harder appeared in his eyes. "Let me tell you a story," he said. "Last year, my unit was sent to a planet called Arakan 7. There was a conflict. A species called the Vrex had invaded a colony. They had 3,000 warriors. We had 200 soldiers." "You were badly outnumbered," Vexus said. 15-1, the Vrex thought it would be easy. They had better weapons, more troops, they knew the terrain. What happened? We won. Silence. 200 defeated 3,000, Drex asked. Killed about half, the rest surrendered or ran. We lost 11 soldiers. 11, Tors paused. That is what this training produces, soldiers who can face any odds and find a way to win. How is that possible? Because when things got hard, we did not quit. When we were tired and hungry and scared, we kept fighting. When it seemed hopeless, we refused to accept that. Every moment of suffering in training prepared us for those moments in combat. Vexus stood up. He walked to the window and looked out at the training field. New exercises were happening, more running, more pain, more transformation. Yesterday, he said, we thought we were watching torture. We thought your species was cruel to its own people. I understand why you might think that, Tors said. Now I see something different. I see a species that understands something important. Comfort creates weakness. Challenge creates strength. Pain can be a teacher. That is a pretty good summary. Among my people, we have a phrase for the hardest day of training. We call it the day of breaking. It happens once at the end of our training cycle. It is so difficult that warriors speak of it with fear. We have something like that too, several times during training actually. What do you call those days? Tor smiled. We call them Tuesday. Vexus stared at him. You are joking. I am not. What you saw yesterday was a normal training day, not special, not extreme, just Tuesday. The commander turned back to the window. Below, a human soldier fell during an exercise. Before anyone could yell at him, he pushed himself up and kept going. No one had forced him. No one had threatened him. He simply refused to stay down. I need to report to the Galactic Council, Vexus said. I need to tell them what I have learned. What will you tell them? Tors asked. Vexus was quiet for a long moment. Then he spoke. I will tell them that humanity is ready to join the Alliance, and I will tell them something else. What? I will tell them to be very glad that humans want to be allies, because I would hate to face your species as enemies. Tors stood up. He offered his hand in the human gesture of friendship. Vexus took it with one of his 4 hands. Welcome to the galaxy, Tors said. I think we are going to get along just fine. 3 months later, the Galactic Council met in full session. Representatives from 47 species filled the Great Hall. Vexus stood at the center, preparing to give his final report on humanity. He was nervous. What he had to say would change how the galaxy viewed Earth forever. Honored members of the Council, he began. I was sent to Earth to evaluate humanity for Alliance membership. I spent 6 standard weeks observing their military. What I found has changed my understanding of what is possible. He activated a holographic display. Images appeared showing the training he had witnessed. Council members leaned forward with interest. What you see here is called basic training. It is the minimum requirement for human soldiers. It lasts 92 Earth days. During this time, humans are pushed far past what we would consider safe limits. That appears to be torture, said Representative Hala of the Sereni Collective. Her species was known for their peaceful nature. I thought so too at first. I was wrong. Let me show you something. He changed the image. It showed statistics, comparison charts, battle records. This is the combat performance of human soldiers compared to other Alliance species. Human units achieve victory in 94% of engagements. They have the lowest retreat rate of any species. They have the highest survival rate in adverse conditions. Impressive numbers, said Grand Admiral Tektok of the Mora hegemony. His species was military-focused, like the Kelari. But numbers can be manipulated. Then let me share direct observations. During my time on Earth, I witnessed a training exercise called a night march. Soldiers were required to travel 50 kilometers carrying 40 kilograms of equipment. They had 8 hours to complete the task. The temperature was below freezing. They could not use lights or vehicles. "How many completed the march?" TechDoc asked. "All of them, every single soldier finished." Murmurs filled the hall. "Among Kelari warriors," Vexus continued, "such a task would be impossible. We would lose half our soldiers to exhaustion and cold. Humans see it as a basic requirement." "Perhaps their bodies are simply more durable," Hollis suggested. "No, humans are physically average by galactic standards. They are not the strongest or fastest or toughest species. What makes them different is here." Vexus pointed to his head. "Their minds." He changed the display again. Medical data appeared. Humans can override their own survival instincts. They can push through pain that would stop other species. They can continue fighting after suffering injuries that should render them unconscious. Not because their bodies are special, but because their minds refuse to quit. "This sounds dangerous," Hollis said. "A species that ignores pain might harm itself." "They do harm themselves, constantly. Their training inflicts injuries that take weeks to heal, and they accept this because they understand something important. Growth comes from stress. Strength comes from challenge. They build themselves into weapons through controlled destruction." TechTalk stood up. "Commander Vexus, I must ask directly, would you want human soldiers fighting alongside Mora forces?" Vexus did not hesitate. "Absolutely, without question." "And would you want to fight against them?" "I would rather face any other species in the galaxy." The hall went silent. "Let me tell you what I saw on day 50 of their basic training," Vexus said. "It is called the Crucible. For 54 hours straight, soldiers operate with minimal sleep, minimal food, and constant physical challenges. They march 48 kilometers. They complete dozens of combat scenarios. They carry wounded teammates. They face simulated chemical attacks." 54 hours with no sleep?" TechDoc asked. "Minimal sleep, perhaps 2 hours total, some have none." "That would kill a Mora soldier." "Humans survive it. They do more than survive. They excel. At the end of the Crucible, they must still pass combat accuracy tests. They must still demonstrate tactical thinking. And they do." Vexus paused and looked around the great hall. "I asked a human sergeant why they do this to themselves. He said something I will never forget. He said, 'In war, the enemy will not wait until you are comfortable. The enemy will not attack when you are rested and fed. The enemy will find you at your worst moment and try to kill you. So we train for our worst moments.'" Representative Kala of the Venn Union raised a tentacle. "This is impressive, but surely there are limits. Surely at some point humans accept defeat." "I asked the same question." The sergeant laughed. He said, "We have a saying, it is not over until it is over. As long as one soldier can still fight, the battle continues. As long as there is any chance, we take it." "Any chance?" Kala repeated. "Any chance at all. Humans do not calculate odds the way we do. They do not look at a situation and decide it is hopeless. They look at a situation and ask what they can do next, always forward, never accepting that they cannot win." Vexus changed the display one final time. It showed a human soldier named Tors, the same one he had interviewed. "This man told me about a battle where 200 humans faced 3,000 Vrex warriors. They were outgunned, outnumbered, and had no reinforcements coming." "What happened?" multiple voices asked. "They won 200 against 3,000. They killed half the enemy and made the rest surrender. They lost 11 soldiers, 11 out of 200. The hall erupted in noise. Representatives called out questions and exclamations. Vexus raised his hand for silence. "I asked how this was possible. The answer was simple. The humans refused to believe they could lose. They found ways to fight smarter. They used the terrain. They disrupted enemy communications. They attacked from unexpected directions. They never stopped moving, never stopped fighting, never gave the enemy a moment to recover. "This sounds like desperation," Hala said. "No, this is how they always fight. Aggressive, relentless, adaptable. Their training teaches them to keep thinking even when exhausted, to keep adapting even when the plan fails, to keep fighting even when everything says they should not be able to continue." Vexus stepped away from the display. "My recommendation to this council is simple. Accept humanity into the Alliance immediately. Give them full membership and full access to Alliance resources and information." "That is a significant recommendation," the council chairperson said, "based on observing training exercises. Based on understanding what those exercises mean. Humans are forging themselves into the most capable warriors in the galaxy. They are doing it on purpose, with full knowledge of the cost, and they are succeeding." "What if they turn against us?" someone called out. Vexus smiled grimly. "Then we are all in serious trouble, but humans have shown no interest in conquest. They want allies, not subjects. They want partners, not servants. If we welcome them as friends, they will be the best friends the galaxy has ever known. And if we reject them, then eventually someone else will recruit them, and that someone else will become the dominant power in this galaxy. Humans are coming whether we want them or not. The only question is whose side they will be on." The council voted that day. The decision was almost unanimous. Humanity joined the Galactic Alliance. 5 years later, the galaxy was at war. The Drexen Collective had emerged from the outer regions. They were a species of conquerors, expanding rapidly, absorbing or destroying everything in their path. They had technology superior to the Alliance. They had numbers greater than any single member species. They had never faced humans in battle. Commander Vexus stood on the bridge of the Alliance flagship. Next to him was Admiral Sarah Chen of Earth. She had been given command of the combined fleet. Some had protested this decision. Humans had only been Alliance members for 5 years. Surely a more experienced species should lead. Then the Council had reviewed Earth's military record since joining. 47 engagements, 47 victories. No other species came close. Admiral Vexus said, "The Drexen fleet has arrived. Preliminary scans show 800 warships. We have 320. Chen studied the tactical display. Her face showed no fear. "Break down the composition. 200 heavy cruisers, 300 destroyers, 200 support vessels, 100 carrier-class ships. And on our side, 112 human vessels, 83 Kelari ships. The rest are mixed Alliance forces." "The Kelari ships are under your command, correct?" "Yes, Admiral. We are honored to serve alongside humanity." Chen smiled slightly. "You remember what you wrote in your report 5 years ago?" "I remember. You said you would hate to face humans as enemies. How do you feel about facing the Drexen?" Vexus looked at the enemy fleet on the display. They were massive, powerful, seemingly unstoppable. "I feel sorry for them," he said. Chen laughed. "Good answer. All ships prepare for battle." The Drexen commander had sent a message before the engagement. He had demanded surrender. He had listed the Alliance's defeats, the planets already lost, the forces already destroyed. He had calculated the odds and determined that resistance was futile. Chen had sent back a single word, "No." Then she had added, "See you Tuesday." The Drexen did not understand the reference. They would learn. The battle began with a human tactic called the hammer and anvil. Alliance ships drew the Drexen fleet toward a point in space while human vessels circled around behind them. It was a simple plan. The Drexen should have seen it coming. They did not expect the Alliance ships to hold. They calculated that 300 vessels could not survive against 800. They expected the anvil to shatter. The anvil did not shatter. Kalari and human ships stood together against overwhelming fire. They took damage. They lost vessels, but they did not retreat. They did not break formation. They held their ground with a determination that the Drexen had never encountered. On the bridge of his flagship, the Drexen Supreme Commander watched in confusion. "Why do they not flee?" he asked his officers. "They are dying, they must know they cannot win." "Perhaps they are too stupid to understand the situation," an officer suggested. "No, the humans are not stupid. We have studied their tactics. They are cunning and dangerous." "Then why do they stay?" The Supreme Commander had no answer. The hammer fell. Human ships emerged from nowhere. They had hidden behind asteroids, in nebula clouds, in the shadows of small moons. They had waited with perfect patience while their allies suffered and died. Now they attacked. Human weapons were not the most powerful in the galaxy. Human shields were not the strongest, but human tactics were unlike anything the Drexen had faced. They did not fight in formation. Each human ship moved independently, making its own decisions, adapting instantly to changing conditions. They attacked weak points with perfect precision. They withdrew before concentrated fire could destroy them. They coordinated without apparent communication. "How are they doing this?" the Supreme Commander demanded. "Their ships should be easy targets. They are smaller than ours, weaker than ours." They do not stop moving, Commander. Our targeting systems cannot track them." "They are just humans. They tire, they make mistakes." "They are not making mistakes, Commander." On the Alliance flagship, Admiral Chen was standing. She had been standing for 8 hours. She had not eaten. She had not rested. Her eyes were locked on the tactical display. "4th Squadron, shift 30 degrees port. Kalari Group, fill the gap at Section 7. Human Squadrons 12 through 15, press the attack on their carrier group." Orders flowed from her constantly. She saw the battle as a living thing, constantly changing, constantly presenting opportunities. Vexus watched her in amazement. He was exhausted just from observing. Chen looked like she could continue for days. "Admiral," he said, "you should rest. Let your second-in-command take over for a while." "Rest?" She glanced at him briefly. "Commander, this is the most important battle of our lives. The fate of the Alliance depends on what we do in the next few hours, and you want me to take a nap. Your body needs." "My body can wait. It has waited through worse than this." She turned back to the display. "Human Squadron 7, you are exposed. Move to coordinates 44 by 12. "How long can you maintain this level of focus?" Vexus asked. "As long as necessary." "That is not an answer." Chen smiled again, that small, knowing smile. "During training, we once stayed awake for 96 hours while completing combat scenarios. This is nothing." 96 hours. Vexus shook his head. He thought he had understood humans during his time on Earth. He was still learning. The battle turned. Human ships broke through the Drexen carrier group. They destroyed 3 carriers in rapid succession. Without carriers, Drexen fighter craft had nowhere to land, nowhere to refuel. They became easy targets. The Alliance ships that had served as the anvil now advanced. They were battered and damaged, but they were still fighting, still pushing forward. "Supreme Commander," a Drexen officer called out, "we are losing cohesion. Our formations are breaking apart." "Then reform them." "We cannot. The humans are everywhere. Every time we establish a formation, they disrupt it. They seem to know what we will do before we do it." "That is impossible." "And yet it is happening." The Supreme Commander watched his fleet die. He had entered this battle with confidence. He had superior numbers, superior firepower, superior technology. He had not accounted for human determination, human adaptability, human refusal to accept defeat. After 12 hours of continuous combat, the Drexen fleet was in ruins. 400 ships destroyed, 200 captured, The rest were fleeing. Admiral Chen finally sat down. "Damage report," she said. "We lost 83 vessels," Vexus reported. 42 human, 27 Kelari, 14 others. Approximately 3,000 confirmed casualties. Another 1,200 wounded. Chen closed her eyes for a moment. 3,000 lives, too many. "Admiral, we won. Against an enemy with more than twice our numbers, we won decisively." "That does not make the dead any less dead." "No, but it means their sacrifice meant something." Chen opened her eyes. "You are right, and we honor them by finishing this. The Drexen Collective must be stopped completely. This victory is just the beginning." "You intend to pursue them?" "I intend to end the war. We will pursue them, yes. We will hunt them back to their home worlds. We will destroy their ability to threaten anyone ever again." Vexus felt a chill run through him. This was the human spirit he had first witnessed on Earth, the refusal to stop, the constant forward momentum, the determination to finish what they started. "How long will this campaign take?" he asked. "As long as necessary," Chen said again. "Weeks, months, years if we must, however long it takes. The Alliance forces are tired, they need rest. Then they will rest in shifts. Human forces will carry the attack while others recover. Then we switch. We rotate. We keep the pressure constant. You are not giving the enemy any chance to recover." "That is the idea." Chen stood up again. She was tired, but she did not show it. The Drexen thought they understood war. They thought it was about numbers and weapons and technology. It is not. Those things matter, but war is really about will. Who wants victory more? Who is willing to sacrifice more? Who will keep fighting after the other side gives up? And humans always want victory more. Humans always keep fighting. Chen looked at Vexus directly. "Commander, 5 years ago you asked a sergeant why humans train the way we do. Do you remember his answer? He said pain is information. He said comfort creates weakness." "Right, now you understand why. We do not train to be comfortable. We train to survive the worst situations imaginable. And because of that training, no situation in real combat is worse than what we have already experienced. You face battle feeling like you have already survived worse." "Exactly. The Drexen thought they were sending us into hell. For us, it was just." "Tuesday," Vexus finished. Chen smiled. "Now you really understand." 2 years later, the war was over. The Drexen Collective no longer existed as a military power. Their fleets were destroyed. Their conquests were liberated. Their home worlds were occupied and being reformed into peaceful members of the galactic community. The Galactic Alliance celebrated the greatest victory in its history. On Earth, Admiral Chen was attending a ceremony. She was being given the highest honors the Alliance could provide. Representatives from every member species were present. Commander Vexus had been asked to speak. He stood before the assembled dignitaries, feeling the weight of what he wanted to say. 7 years ago, he had come to Earth expecting to observe a primitive species. He had found something far different. 7 years ago, he began, I was sent to Earth on an evaluation mission. The Galactic Council wanted to know if humanity was ready to join our alliance. They wanted me to observe and report. He paused, remembering those first days at the training base. I watched human soldiers train. I saw things that horrified me. Physical punishment that seemed designed to break bodies and spirits. Exercises that pushed individuals far beyond safe limits. Treatment that I believed was torture. The audience was silent. I was ready to return to the council with a negative report. I was going to recommend rejecting humanity. I thought your species was barbaric, cruel, dangerous. He looked at Admiral Chen, who was watching with a slight smile. Then I spoke with a sergeant named Tors. He explained something that changed my entire understanding. He said that what I had witnessed was just a normal training day, Not special, not extreme, just Tuesday. Laughter rippled through the crowd. The phrase had become famous throughout the galaxy. I learned that humans do not fear pain, they use it. They do not avoid challenges, they seek them. They do not accept comfortable limits, they push past them constantly. Vexus straightened his posture. I have now served alongside humans for 7 years. I have fought beside them in 18 engagements. I have watched them face situations that would break any other species, and I have learned the truth. Humans are not barbaric, they are prepared. Humans are not cruel, they are honest about what combat requires. Humans are not dangerous to their allies, they are dangerous to their enemies. He turned to face Admiral Chen directly. Admiral, when I first met you, you were a junior officer training at that same base. You were covered in mud and bruises. You could barely stand from exhaustion. I thought you were suffering. I remember that day, Chen said. You looked at me like I was already dead. I did not understand then what I understand now. You were not suffering. You were being forged. All that pain was shaping you into what you became. A leader who could guide an entire alliance through the worst war in galactic history. He raised his hand in the Kalari gesture of highest respect. Humanity asked to join our alliance. We thought we were doing you a favor by accepting. We were wrong. You have done us the favor. You have taught us things we needed to learn. What have we taught you? Chen asked. That there are no impossible situations. Only situations where you have not tried hard enough. That pain is just information. That comfort is the enemy of growth. That as long as you keep fighting, you have not lost. Vexus looked out at the assembled representatives. The Drexen thought they could conquer the galaxy. They had the numbers, the weapons, the technology. What they did not have was the human spirit. They did not understand that humans look at a hopeless situation and see it as a challenge. They did not understand that humans have been training their whole lives for exactly these moments. They did not understand that what seems like torture to other species is just routine preparation for humanity. The Drexen called human training barbaric. They called it torture. They thought it was weakness. We know better now. We call it Tuesday. And we know it is humanity's greatest strength. The ceremony continued, but Vexus's words had said everything that needed to be said. Later at a reception, Vexus found Sergeant Tors. The man had risen to the rank of colonel during the war. He had fought in dozens of battles. He had been wounded 3 times. He was still serving. Colonel Tors, Vexus said, do you remember me? Tors looked at him for a moment. Then recognition dawned. Commander Vexus, the Kalari from the observation window, you watched us train. I did, you told me about Tuesday. Tors laughed. I wondered if you would remember that, you looked so confused. I was confused, I am not anymore. Good, Tors offered his hand. Vexus took it. How does it feel to be on the winning side? It feels appropriate. Humanity was always going to win. I see that now. Nothing is certain in war. Perhaps, but you taught me something important. When humans decide to do something, they find a way. No matter how hard, no matter how painful, no matter how impossible it seems. Tors nodded slowly. That is the human way. We never give up. We never stop. We never accept that we cannot succeed. Because you have already survived worse in training. Exactly, Tors smiled. Every battle I have ever fought has been easier than basic training. Every challenge has been smaller than what my drill sergeants put me through. When someone threatens me, I think about those 92 days of pure hell and I laugh. You laugh. Because nothing is as hard as Tuesday was. Vexus thought about this for a long moment. Then he made a decision. Colonel Tors, I would like to ask a favor. What favor? I would like to experience human training, personally. Tors stared at him. You want to go through basic training at your age, as a Kalari. I want to understand completely. I want to feel what you feel. I want to know what makes humans different. Commander, with respect, that training might kill you. I understand, I'm still asking. Tors was quiet for several seconds. Then he smiled wider than Vexus had ever seen. You know what? I think that can be arranged. Welcome to the program, Commander. When do we start? Tomorrow. Tor's smile became something fiercer, something harder. Tuesday. Vexus felt fear for the first time in decades, but he also felt something else. Excitement, anticipation, the beginning of understanding. Somewhere across the galaxy, humans continued their training, running in the cold, pushing through pain, refusing to stop, preparing themselves for challenges that had not yet arrived. They did this because they understood something the galaxy was still learning. The universe was vast and dangerous. There would always be new enemies, new threats, new battles to fight. And humanity would always be ready. Because every day was a chance to become stronger. Every challenge was a chance to grow. Every moment of pain was preparation for victory. And what other species called torture, humans called something much simpler. They called it Tuesday.